Good morning, the writing school. Can I help you?
Oh, hi. I'm ringing about the online writing courses you advertise on the internet.
Yes. Would you like me to send you a brochure?
I would, but I also have some questions.
Okay. Well, let me take your details first, and then I can deal with the questions after that.
Okay.
I just need to fill out this form. So, can you give me your first name, please?
Yes, it's Alex.
That's great, Alex. And what's your last name?
It's Sakdeva.
Okay, can you spell that for me?
Yes, it's S-A-C-H-D.
Is that P?
No, D-E-V-A.
Okay, I've got that. Now can you give me your address?
Well, I'm staying with friends at the moment, but I'll be in my new flat in Preston next week.
Well, perhaps the Preston address is best.
Okay, so that's flat 4A, 396 New Valley Road.
New Valley Road.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's great. And we know the town. That's Preston.
Yes.
Do you know what your postcode will be there?
Oh, I think I've got it somewhere on a piece of paper. Let me see. Yes, here it is. It's BN6 3BZ.
BS?
No, BZ.
Right. I guess you don't have a phone number yet.
No, not at the flat. And my mobile's not working right now. I have to take it to the shop and see what's wrong.
Oh, I hope it's nothing serious.
Well, it's new, so it should be all right.
You could give me the number anyway, for the future.
Yes, okay. It's 0787 345077.
That's 354077.
No, 345.
Oh, thanks. I'll note that your phone is not working right now.
Okay, thanks.
Now, the last thing I need is an email address.
Okay, it's alex7@ptu.com. That's my personal address.
ptu.com. Fine. Now, as you're moving, I'll put something in the message box so that the brochure doesn't come too early.
Yes, could you do that?
I'll put deliver brochure next week.
Oh, that's great.
Now, what would you like to do about... Now, you can see on our website that we have a lot of courses. What are you interested in doing?
Well, I don't want to publish anything. I just want to raise the standard of my own writing.
Yes, it depends on whether you want to, write creatively or for fun. We also have fiction writing. That includes writing children's stories.
Well, I work in an advertising agency, so I'd like to write better so that, well, I'd like my salary to rise.
Okay, so we can send you our brochure for business writing. And if you think it'll be right for you, then you can enroll.
Great. What happens after that?
Then we send you the course pack.
What does that contain?
You get some books that will help you with your writing skills, an audio course on CDs and instructional DVDs to watch, and some lesson texts to read.
Okay. What if I change my mind?
Well, you can send the materials back to us. You have 21 days to decide, and we'll refund your fees within that time.
Oh, that's quite good. I see. So the enrollment fee includes the course materials?
Yes, it does. For all our courses.
So are there different fees for different courses?
Yes, at the moment, your course is... Let me see. They've just raised the prices. It was £340, but I think it's £375 now. Yes, fees rose a month ago, I'm afraid, by 10%. Most of our courses are now between £300 and £400.
Okay, that's not bad. So who will teach me?
Well, before we decide that, you do your first written assignment. It's like a personal profile.
So I write about things like my background and where I was brought up?
No, it's the future we're interested in.
Oh, okay. So what I want to get from the course and how it will help me to achieve my ambitions?
That's right. We get a picture of who you are and your needs, and then we match you to a personal tutor who will teach you and work with you.
That's a good idea. And how do I get that to you?
Well, you send it in to us by post or through our website.
What about lessons?
There are 15 lessons altogether, and each one has an assignment.
And what sort of feedback will I get?
There's continuous online support, and part of that is a web-based facility for all the students on your programme to get together.
Oh, so we can share ideas and things?
That's right, with no need to go into a classroom or be tied to weekly schedules.
Okay. Thanks. I think that's all my questions.
Don't hesitate to call if you have any more.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You will hear a recorded message about buying tickets from a booking agency. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Thank you for calling ATS Advanced Ticketing System, the call system for all your entertainment needs. Our automated telephone service is designed to answer your questions quickly and easily. The ATS office in the Regency Theatre is open Monday to Thursdays from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday till 8 p.m. For online bookings and detailed program listings, check our website at www.atstix.com. That's spelled ATSTIX. Please listen to the choices available. You may press your choice as soon as you hear it to get more information. For sporting events, including the Western International Tennis Classic, press 1. For the Formula 1 Grand Prix, press 2. For classical music, including the upcoming Philharmonic Orchestra series, press 3. For theatre and dance, press 4. For other inquiries, please hold the line.
Before the recorded message continues, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now, as the message continues, answer questions 16 to 20.
Ticket prices for the Formula 1 Grand Prix on the 10th until the 14th of March are as follows. General admission. Thursday, $27. Concession, $10. Friday, $37. Concession, $15. Saturday, $55. Concession, $35. Sunday, $70. Concession, $65. Concession rates apply to children under 14 and to students, seniors and pensioners on presentation of a valid card. Grandstand seating. 4-day tickets covering the 6 main grandstands cost $299. However, pit straight tickets are $350 and seats at the chicane cost $450 each. Children under 3 are admitted free to the general admissions area, and children under 14 are eligible for concession prices. Gates open at 8 a.m. Thursday and Friday and 7:30 Saturday and Sunday. Events begin at 9 o'clock. Alcohol, ice boxes, cans, bottles and animals are not allowed on site. There are no refunds or exchanges. On each ticket, a $2.50 booking fee applies. To make a booking, you must have a valid credit card. To listen again, press 1. To make a booking or to talk to a ticket agent, press 2. Your call is in our queue. You can expect to wait about 3 minutes.
That is the end of section 2. You have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a conversation between a student called Mary and her tutor, Mr. Hadstone. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hello, Mr. Headstone. Is this the right time for our meeting?
Yes, it is. Thanks for coming in at such a late hour, Mary. I know you've had a busy day studying and will be keen to get home. And thanks for volunteering to run this project. It's going to help you develop and practice skills needed by teachers today. Field trips are getting more and more a part of school life. So as a student of education, it'll be wonderful training for you. It's really a great opportunity.
We did loads of field trips at school, so I've got a good idea of what sort of things we could do.
I expect so. But we're here to go through the basics of planning one, and the trip leader carries a load of responsibility. Right now, you're focusing on activities, but your main job is to consider the dangers and come up with ways of countering or avoiding them. There are lots of government regulations you won't have been aware of on your school trips, but they're just a guideline for your own planning. Some of those school trips you went on would have been pretty adventurous, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and your plan needs to be tailored to the kind of trip you're doing. On a well-planned and successfully led adventure trip, we don't often hear of problems, even though sometimes there's bad weather, for example, that a school party has managed to combat. That's because the leader created a well-thought-out hazard management plan.
Ah, I thought I'd just be taking my mates out on a trek. Now it's all paperwork.
Yes, well, that's why I called you in. We'll work on this together over the next few days. I just wanted to give you a heads up on what you'll need to think about. There are some aspects that every trip needs to consider. What do you think they might be?
Well, heavy rain or high winds, I guess, and any dangers in the terrain?
Yes, we call those the significant factors. And another important one is the makeup of your group. But you don't need to go overboard. There are some kinds of hazard that you won't need to think about at all. Things like hurricanes, earthquakes, radioactivity, or major diseases such as cancer. The official name for those is unlikely events, because they almost certainly won't happen.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Okay, so let's consider the hazards seen as most likely on a field trip into the countryside. Weather causes real problems. Overexposure to the sun or the cold, even the wind, can have a big impact. And of course, the weather can change very suddenly and without warning.
Yes, people can get into trouble in the hills if they don't bring extra layers of clothes and a jacket, even if they start walking on a hot day. Oh, and a raincoat too, of course. What's next then?
Well, let's think about possible activities and what you might need.
Yes, okay. Well, for hiking, of course, we need a first aid kit. Oh, and a decent topographic map of the area. And we need to make sure that more than one person can read it. I've run into lots of difficulties in the past with people who can't identify even major features, like rivers. And some people have no idea about contour lines. And I suppose a compass, too.
You'd need to list those. Then there are things that might be obvious but must be written down and considered seriously. For example, if there's a possibility of falling more than 2.5 meters, that's considered life-threatening. And I'm sure you would be aware of problems near the sea, like tides or high waves. And the trouble you can get into where there's a possibility of an avalanche or a mudslide or a flash flood if you're anywhere near rivers.
Yes. Well, I was thinking of an adventurous route for this trip. You know, that's always more fun. And it's such a cool feeling when you've achieved something really difficult.
Yes, okay, but then you need to consider who's going to be in your party. Don't go and plan things that are beyond the reach of most people, or you're asking for trouble. You need to take into account the physical strength and experience of the party as a whole. When you make your groups, make sure there's at least one person in each one who's been hiking a few times before.
Wow! There's a lot to write down, isn't there? I'm really keen to get started now.
Well, good, because there's a lot more detail to consider. For now, I'll just mention 2 more of the common hazards for high school trips in particular.
Yes?
The Ministry of Education website says don't use inexperienced volunteers. And don't allow student drivers to bring their own cars, or to drive anyone else's car for that matter.
Well, now I really have something to think about. Thanks, Mr. Headstone.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture on immunity and immunization. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good afternoon, and thank you for your warm welcome. This will be the first talk in a series of 5 on health interventions, protection and prevention. Could I start by asking for a show of hands? How many of you have had a flu vaccination at the beginning of winter? I thought so. You young ones always think you're indestructible. Well, as you are no doubt aware, disease-spreading germs or pathogens are everywhere. On a daily basis, the human body has to ward off attacks by various harmful bacteria and viruses. A healthy body has a good defense system against many of these germs, but the defense only operates well against microorganisms that it has already encountered, in which case it is said to be immune. There are 2 ways in which humans acquire natural immunity. Actively, when a person has first suffered and then recovered from an illness, and passively, when ready-made protection is transferred into the body, for example, from the maternal blood via the umbilical cord to an unborn child, or through breast milk. Now, artificially acquired immunity can help the body to fight disease, so we can use active immunization as a preventative measure. This is when a person is vaccinated against an illness by injection or oral ingestion of a tiny amount of weakened or inactive germs, not enough to actually cause him or her to contract the illness, but sufficient for the body's defense system to recognize and respond to the threat by forming antibodies. Intervention using passive immunization, on the other hand, is a method of curing an illness after it is too late for prevention. It is less effective than active immunization and takes longer to work. It is used when the body has already been invaded by bacteria and the person is ill. In this case, there is no time for the body to make antibodies of its own, so proteins, usually taken from the blood of animals, are injected to equip the patient with the essential antibodies to combat the particular illness. Let's have a quick look at a bit of history. The discovery of vaccination to boost the body's immune system by making it sensitive to particular disease-causing bacteria was made by an 18th century English doctor called Edward Jenner. He noticed that survivors of smallpox, a common but extremely dangerous disease, never contracted the disease a second time. In other words, they were immune. He studied a similar disease in cows called cowpox and realized that people in contact with the infected cows became ill with symptoms resembling smallpox. However, this disease was quite mild by comparison, and those who contracted cowpox were then immune to smallpox. He conducted an experiment by injecting a child with a small amount of pus taken from a cowpox pustule. The child subsequently became ill, but soon recovered. Later, he injected the child with pus from a smallpox pustule, and the child did not get sick. He had developed immunity to the more dangerous disease. The antibodies produced to fight the cowpox bacteria had been able to fight off the smallpox bacteria. What are antibodies? Well, antibodies are made by white blood cells called B lymphocytes, and this is done in response to the presence of antigens, or other bacterial toxins, which have been released by the microorganisms, what we commonly refer to as germs, that have invaded the body. These Y-shaped antibodies, or you can think of them as antitoxins, may stop the toxins or repair the damage they have done by what is known as the antigen-antibody reaction, which takes place within the plasma of the blood. A correct antibody, for that disease, clings to a particular antigen in order to render it harmless. Large numbers of these pairs clump together to form a bigger unit. This is called agglutination and is able to be seen by the naked eye, which is very helpful for doctors and other specialists to determine which illnesses a patient is immune to. Inoculation or active vaccination can protect people from serious diseases. The vaccine may make a person feel unwell for a few days, when the immune system starts to produce antibodies to match the introduced antigen. This is called a primary reaction. If that particular antigen should ever enter the body again later, a secondary reaction takes place. The body is then able to produce large numbers of corresponding antibodies within a short time, so the invading antigens are quickly wiped out, without the person suffering any harm from the disease. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.